Hello, my name is Tia, also known as Costumed Fiend, because I'm both evil and excessively fond of dressing up. I've decided to lean into it being June/Pride Month, and I wanted to highlight another hidden queer gem on HBO Max. I'm never gonna call it just Max like Twitter. It's HBO. It's called Los Espookys. I've never considered myself to be goth since I don't really listen to that kind of music, but I'm certainly adjacent to that subculture on occasion, which is why, like I mentioned in my Crow audio, I've always had a soft spot for the goth type of character. Los Spooky centers on Ronaldo, Andres, Ursula, and Tati. Ursula and Tati are sisters, and all four of them have seemingly been friends for a long time. The series follows them as they turn their love of horror into a business. This was honestly an interesting enough premise to me on its own, but what I love about Los Spookies is that the world the characters live in is also just weird beyond the individual characters' quirks. For example, in an early episode, there's a town that needs their help because their biggest attraction, an owl with a wig, has lost its wig. There's also a news host that's constantly being replaced by brainwashed women who believe themselves to be the original. Something that Ursula gets caught up in later on in the second season. There's even a guy who works at the cemetery and makes no promises that he'll bury the dead where they're supposed to be. And all of these things are pretty much treated as just how it is. It's not treated like a Mexican South American thing either, even though that's where like the show takes place, kind of in that kind of vague area. It's sometimes something we see happen when we go over to the US. It's just as strange here. In spite of this, it's still easy to buy that Ronaldo, one of the main characters, like I said, struggles with his identity and the way he's perceived, or that comparatively to the rest of the group, Tati is still considered odd, even by the standards of the show's universe. Its queerness comes not just from the characters' identities, however, although the main cast are all canonically some flavor of queer, but also from its approach to storytelling. One of the creators, for example, Julio Torres, who plays Andres, also wrote some of my favorite SNL sketches like Wells for Boys or My Little Stepchildren. I'll try to remember to put a link below to those, but both of those have a distinct voice that I think carries over to Los Spookies, such as the subplot in the second season where Andres treats his new boyfriend's kids like they're roommates he can just get rid of so they don't get in the way of their relationship. That's also why it's the kind of show that feels like it's for us and not just about us. The overall vibes, not Andre's feelings about children. Even though I'm black and not Latin, there's still a lot of details that feel familiar from a queer cultural perspective in general. Like, there's an episode where a professor brings up one of his lectures and he talks about how he brought up the notion that queer people have worn a single dangly earring as a sign of their sexuality since the dawn of time, and the camera immediately cuts to two of the main characters. Of course, this type of humor at times does make it hard to describe because it's pretty much always funnier to watch it yourself than to have anyone try to explain it to you. If you like Julio Torres' work on SNL or his separate uh, performance, I think he has a comedy special on HBO Max. It's pretty much the kind of humor you can expect for the show overall. It's a bit niche, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be represented. I mean, that's kind of why Los Spookies to me is on the list of shows that I would have loved to have as a teenager, but I'm still glad I get to enjoy it now. It's only 2 seasons, but it's kind of a miracle it even got to exist in the first place, since it's definitely not designed to appeal to a broad audience. That's overall why this audio I think is a little bit shorter. It's definitely something to experience yourself. Honestly, if you haven't watched it already and anything I said interested you, I'd recommend it. If you have watched it and feel compelled, you could share an aspect of the show you liked or a scene that still amuses you. Otherwise, like if you liked, and have a good one.